I had heard whispers about a game called Rue Valley. It was a Disco Elysium-like game, a spiritual successor of sorts, and one that Robert Kurvitz, the creator of Disco Elysium, had given a seal of approval. After playing the demo for Rue Valley, I was very intrigued. The timing was fortuitous, as the very next day the full game would be releasing. Now I was able to keep the momentum, my juices flowing, and play the game through to its climax. Rue Valley is a isometric, story-rich point-and-click adventure in which you take the role of Eugene Harrow, who is attending mandatory therapy sessions in a motel in a small desert county town of Rue Valley. The hook is Eugene is stuck in a time loop between the times of 8 p.m. at the end of his first therapy session to 8:47 p.m., where there's a loud explosion, the entire sky turns red, and it resets the loop back to 8 p.m., sending Eugene back to the beginning of the loop. So, as the player, you must break the cycle and solve the mystery of this time loop. I went into this game really enjoying the opening act and felt genuinely intrigued by the world and the characters it presented. It was laying out a lot of mystery and spiked my curiosity. I wanted to know the secrets behind the Corporation of Coral Destiny. Who was the mysterious owner of the motel? And why am I stuck in a time loop in the desert? These were just some of the questions I had, and I found myself getting very excited, theorizing possible answers as to what exactly was going on, letting my imagination run wild. But as the game progressed, my disappointment grew. I realized that it wasn't going to be as full of intrigue, espionage, sci-fi, mystery that I had hoped for, and the repetitive nature of the time loop was getting very irritating. The best comparison I can draw to my experience with this game is kind of like the episode of SpongeBob where Squidward moves to Tentacle Acres. So, as you go around the town, speaking to townsfolk, picking their brains, figuring out what exactly is going on, you quickly realize, like I said earlier, there really isn't this grand conspiracy. It's more a story about the characters' relationships and their personal lives on a much more intimate level, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for me, it left me feeling very underwhelmed. I also felt that a lot of the townsfolk were pretty bland. Not terrible, but just no one really stood out to me or really intrigued me. Which sucks because this game is about talking to characters. Essentially, until the loop resets, you use the knowledge you glean from them to progress the story in the next loop with either the plot of the game or maybe a side arc you have going on with that specific character. But I found most of these moments to just be filler or fleshing out the world, if you will. But after continually speaking to these people and hearing the same dialogue over and over again, even the slightest interest I had in them was gone. Which leads me to my next point, the time loop. Not only the dialogue, but the amount of times you see the same driving or walking animations or load screens is whack. I feel I would see less load screens playing Starfield on an Atari Jaguar. I understand that there are creative reasons why these moments are in the game, so that you can feel like Eugene and the struggle he is going through. But for me, it was just tedious and made me feel like quitting the game at times. By the end, I was very exhausted by this mechanic. But as for getting exhausted, the main character, Eugene, was also a slog. I started off being interested in him, wanting to know more. Though as the game progresses, and with every one of his angsty remarks, or maybe it's his internal monologue, his doomer persona wears to a point of disliking him. Like much of the game as a whole, by the end of it, you feel the game has left you more miserable than its characters, so it becomes hard to sympathize with them and not just feel sorry for yourself. Rue Valley is like Disco Elysium, its art style only. The game's design and UI feel very much like the Zayam masterpiece, but beyond its cosmetics, the comparison ends. The game feels much more like a visual novel, a point A to point B with load screens throughout and loads of walking animations. In the end, It's nice to see a studio put out an original game idea at a time when there are so many remakes, remasters, and sequels. I also get the feeling Rue Valley was very much a passion project for this team. But for me, it felt very, very short of the mark, and it is not a game I can recommend. The music's pretty good though.